Alright, and this is the story of Dracula Mihawk. This is the thing. Mihawk's story hasn't been told yet, like in the manga or anime. But from what I know, it's going to be one of those type of story times. Not one that's too long. Alright, so a long time ago, Mihawk was born, and then eventually he was at Roger's execution. He saw the king of the pirates die, and he knew that a new era was upon the world. He was looking up at Gold Roger with those yellow eyes that he has, that has the extra circle in it. And he was like, damn, I gotta do something in this era. This new one that's coming about. I can't be swept away like those old people. So he then became basically... he grabbed a sword, I guess, and he became a fucking, guy. Well, or he already had it, we don't know. This guy's kind of question mark. We just know that he eventually ran around and he started cutting down Marines like crazy. They were kind of hunting his dick. See, he's a swordsman, right? So he was looking for opponents to fight who were swordsmen. He was like, I bet I can beat you. He would defeat them, and then there was Marines that had swords too, and he would fight them and, get them out of the way. But then they started hunting his dick too, because he's a guy and they labeled him a pirate too. And they're like, this guy's killing us off. We have to run shit with him. He got the title of Marine Hunter. See, Zoro was a pirate hunter, but Mihawk was a Marine hunter before he got, the immunity from the world government. And now I don't know when he got this immunity, but probably, 10 to 12 years before the prior story, I guess. But he became one of the 7 warlords, and honestly the most powerful of all of them. So he, had that, and they were like, because this guy's killing, Marines. Sengoku was like, I would have this guy, as an ally rather than a, guy who's killing my, guys in the Marines. So, we'll keep this guy, on the call and shit. And he was like, yes, as long as you ain't hunting my dick, we'll be fine. So eventually he finds Shanks too, red-haired Shanks, and they're like, kind of young, but not super young, and they fight each other. Boom, boom, boom. No one knows about this fight yet. It hasn't been shown in the anime or the manga, but it said that the fight was very great and worth watching and everything else. Shanks had 2 arms back then. As those two fought, it came down to a draw or whatever. Nobody died in the exchange. We don't know too much about that fight. That's why there are question marks around this man still. Everybody is like, the Mihawk stands are always, saying this is for certain, it's just because they like the character and everything else. He's kind of cool though, because he moves by himself. That's why I like him. He's kind of similar to me in that way. But he carries Yoru with him. And eventually, time passed from that event. And he learned about people who were playing games. That would be Don Krieg. Don Krieg thought he was a pirate and he could go into, places. And then he hit Don Krieg's ship. Then he hit it again, too. He followed them into the East Blue, and he was like, you weak-ass pirates are kind of in the way. But when he came there, Zoro was there. 3 Swords saw Zoro from the East Blue. pirate hunter Zoro. And then they ran their fight. But it wasn't a fight. It was, no diff fight. Mihawk won with a butter knife, essentially. Not really a butter knife, but still. Zoro was defeated and humbled by the world's most powerful swordsman. And he told Zoro to seek him out again. It's alright. I didn't kill you because I want to see what you can do. And he was like, alright, I'll train and do what I have to meet you again. Then Mihawk left, as he does, by himself on that little boat thing that he had. So then he was seen again, talking to Shanks, and he was like, this is Luffy, he has bounty. And then Shanks was like, cool, let's drink and all this stuff, I will not run shit with you because, you have one arm now. Can't be unfair. But also, Shanks is like, come on, man, I could still, run shit with you if I wanted to. I'm one of the 4 emperors of the sea. And Mihawk went on his way again, and then he, saw Luffy again. And he was like, damn, I'm being called to see this guy a lot. Luffy and Zoro, I'll probably meet this guy again. Is what Mihawk's thinking. As he's called to, see that, new bounties on the Straw Hats, and then eventually he's called to Marineford too. In the Marineford War, he shot one of the world's strongest sword slashers at Whitebeard. But then, and that was just assumed because everybody saw it, and he pulled it out and he did that. But it kind of was one of his, real moves, because guess what? Everybody turned their fucking head to see that shit. And even Whitebeard was like, oh, damn, this nigga's fucking throwing shit now. And then Diamond Jozo threw the sword slash into the air and it dispersed. But it was alright because he ran shit with Vista. See, Vista was the swordsman of the Whitebeard Pirates. And, Vista was holding down kind of better than Zoro was in the beginning of the series. But even Vista fell to Mihawk's sword, and that was a low diff fight for Mihawk. But then, when Shanks showed up, he was like, I can't stay here. I was only contracted to be here for the Whitebeard fight, not for the Shanks fight too. So I'll be going back to my place. And then he went back to his place. But he come to find out that his, rival, Roanoa Zoro, was there. And Zoro was like, he understood the situation. And then he kind of looked at things and he was like, you know what? I have to learn something from you. I want to go back to, my captain one day. But I'm weak right now. Mihawk's kind of like, this is strange because I'm supposed to fight you. You're not up to par, but I'll teach you something. And he did. I don't know what he taught Zoro. Probably hockey. That's what I know. I know what he taught Zoro. He taught him hockey and mastery of armament hockey the best he could. And a little bit of observation too. And then after that, Mihawk was doing his thing again as one of the 7 warlords. But then the warlord system got abolished. And the Marines were like, hey, we're hunting that guy's dick all over again like we did back in the day. And he was like, oh shit, they're coming to my place? Crocodile was like, yeah, they're hunting my dick too. Well, I was already, not one of the 7 warlords anymore, but, they're hunting my dick too. We can run shit together somehow. They eventually found Buggy, but then Buggy's people were like, we'll make a poster that says that Buggy the Clown is cool and the leader of the Cross Guild, and then basically he became Buggy's underling, but not really. Buggy understood what was going on because they could kill him at any time. Even Mihawk could kill him. Even though sword slashes don't work, he could still find a way to kill Buggy. It's called hockey, admittance, and other things. So he's like the right-hand man. Basically, I would call Mihawk the vice captain of the Cross Guild. at this point right now. And eventually he's going to have to fight some people. I don't know opponents he's going to fight. Fujitora maybe Shiryu the Rain, but definitely Zoro at some point. But by the time he fights Zoro, it's going to be a great fight. You know, it won't be one-sided like it was last time. You know, it'll be an extreme diff fight that's worth watching. It might even be better than the fight he had with with Shanks. You know, we don't know yet. But that's the story of Mihawk as told by Darius the Green Angel and everything we know about that right now. And stay cool, in the corner.